know why they do that now.
Yeah.
And it's happening in all the meetings and it always catches me by surprise, you know?
So you know when to start your best behavior?
Amy.
Yeah.
I guess all we're waiting for is Catherine.
Catherine.
Jenny won't be able to join us today, which I'm sad about.
So Catherine was going to a different location. Lisa, is that what you said, to try to log in?
Yes, she was gonna go to a store near her and sit out there and use her phone.
That's gonna be hot.
Nope. Well, they have inside tables, so maybe she could go in there too. And there's Doug.
Oh, I'm just kind of lurking in the background, you know, just kind of multitasking, kind of waiting for things to get rolling here. I mean, we're being recorded, so I gotta be very careful.
That's right. Now Kirsten will delete it.
The Catherine being outside on her phone got my attention.
Hey, I want to say thank you to Lisa for sending the Zoom link and the documents. You're a rock star. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, good. Hopefully, if that works, we can keep doing it.
I love it.
Lisa aims to please.
I'll
We
try.
now know who's singing at Phyllis's retirement party now.
Who?
The rock star.
No,
Yeah.
no, we'll make you do it.
A little clue, Doug sings great songs.
I sing goofy things when I sing, just goofy things.
Do we have a quorum without Catherine, Lisa?
No,
Do we need to have a quorum to make edits or corrections to the minutes? Can we make corrections to them without approving them, or do we need to just wait and do that all at one time?
Just can't approve them. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with editing. It just takes the quorum to be able to approve.
Okay.
So I didn't mean to step into that. Phyllis or Lisa could answer that, but
Okay, well, I guess maybe we'll get started just to make sure we have enough time, and then we can work on approving the minutes. So we'll call the meeting to order. Jenny can't be here, so I'm going to be trying to fill her shoes. If I forget to do something, please let me know. I will not take any, it will not hurt my feelings. So the minutes that I went through that I noticed, my last name is spelled many, many different ways. And it's McIntyre. It's McIntyre, just like McIntyre Park or McIntyre Road, but with a Y instead of an I at the end. And it's probably been like that for a long time in the minutes, but I just noticed it in the last 2 months worth of minutes. So, you know, that's not a big correction, but
I will fix it. I
you know,
don't know why I do that, but I do
your
it.
Zoom name right now is McIntrye.
I know. And every time I log in here, it assigns me that name, and I can change my own name, so I can rename myself, but I don't know why. I think in your system, I was put in as that,
Okay.
and it is supposed to be that. I changed.
I'll fix that for next month.
Okay. No worries. Any other changes to the minutes you all saw that needed to be made?
No.
Content looks great. My name is also spelled differently, but on the screen, that is how you spell it.
So I'm putting 2 F's in it sometimes, right?
I know it's, you know, it happens all the time actually. And I hear lots of people try to call me LaFleur and all kinds of not that fancy.
My maiden name is Coleman and has no E in it. And up until I got married and had that name, I would say I'm Phyllis Coleman, Colman, without the E, and they put the E in every time.
I
It
even
reminds
asked you
me-
one time if you were sure.
Yeah, it reminds me of Anne with an E, from Anne of Green Gables. All right, well, I guess we can move on to the informational items then, since we cannot approve any minutes quite yet. Hopefully Catherine will get her internet fixed. So Phyllis, do you want us to ask questions, or did you want to talk through any of this first and then have us ask questions? What would you like to do?
Well, why don't you go ahead and ask questions?
Okay, so Karen or Amy, did either of you have any notes or questions about the information items?
I don't. Good information, but no questions.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay. I had a few questions and I'm getting them open. So in section 2 for Child Protective Services, letter A, it mentions a backlog for this year and how it is smaller than the backlog from last year, which is great. I am just wondering, what's the biggest factor that's leading to any backlog? Is this a personnel issue that if we had more personnel, we wouldn't have any backlog at all? Or is it more of a situation where it's just things are happening that are out of our control?
So the backlog basically means entering all of the documentation in the case management system, which is called OASIS. And the cases cannot be closed until all that's done. So it's due to a number of factors. One is definitely kind of a time management. Some workers are better at organizing their time so that they get their documentation in on a timely basis, and others just have trouble doing it. But I have to say that another factor is the system itself. We all received iPads last year, right as the pandemic hit. And that enables the workers to enter in information in real time, because then that gets dumped into OASIS. Before then, they would actually have to wait until they get to their office before entering the information. The system is also cumbersome. It's a lot of different screens. And so it's just, it's a matter of just trying to juggle responding to crises, managing the case management part of their job, and getting the documentation in. Some of the part of the backlog that has to do with cases not being closed is due to some factors that are outside of our control. For example, in cases that require law enforcement involvement, we sometimes there's a delay in getting the police officer joining the worker to be able to respond. Not in dire emergencies, but so there's sometimes just delay because of outside factors. But primarily it's just the age-old social work problem of you got to get your paperwork done. In addition to working with the client, and some folks are better than others. But the iPads have helped considerably.
Well, that's good. Thank you for that. The next question I had was about letter B, where we were talking about 3 of the full-time investigators are leaving the agency, and 2 of those are senior workers. How many full-time investigators do we have total? So it's 3 out of how many?
Hold on. I would have to go back and count.
You could just estimate if you want. It doesn't have to be.
It's about, I think there are 2 units, and I think each unit has 6 folks. So, right, with the departures, we have about 3 left. So I guess we have more than 8. Lisa, how many CPS investigators do we have?
I mean, I think senior workers, but is that what you mean by
Are
that?
you asking out of seniors?
Well,
Yes.
I'm just more curious to know, like, are we losing half of everyone we have?
Yeah.
Or is it less than that? Like, is this going to create a really kind of dire situation where we are not going to be able to serve our clients? Or, you know,
It is.
3 sounds like a lot to me.
It is a dire situation. However, what we're trying to do is work with budget to see if we can overlap the hires, because they gave us a lot of time. Like 2 of the seniors end date is not until August. So we're starting the recruitment now, and we're working with budget to see if we can actually bring somebody on before the folks actually leave. And it really, it does not mean that it's just suddenly we've got this uprising and everybody's leaving. It's really folks are choosing to go down a more clinical path. And several of them have accepted this special program with a private practice. And so, and then one is she just had a baby, wanted to stay home. But I think with everybody that's leaving gone, I think we would be down to 4 staff. So it's challenging, but we're pulling resources from the Family Preservation Unit because they are also trained CPS investigators. We're pulling resources from the Family Support Program who have ex-CPS workers. So we're just trying to fill in the gaps while we get people hired.
I would want to add a couple things. One is that Phyllis will work with me if she needs to in her work with finance and budget. You know, if something gets stuck, something that we can kind of work through together. And so I would be part of that conversation, just depending on how it plays out. And the other is that Phyllis and I and finance and budget had some conversations around creating what we call overhire positions, which is what we do in police and fire rescue because of the amount of turnover that we expect and the length of time it takes to get someone up. It is an actual position, but it's a different way to fund it. So we've had those conversations too. And Phyllis, I don't know where that stands. I think that I saw a communication from Andy now a couple of weeks ago, but that's one that would have to go to the Board of Supervisors for approval if and when we get to that point. But that's another strategy that we're looking at. Did I say that right, Phyllis? Or yeah, it's been
Yeah, and there's a slight hiccup in that originally we were going to try to use the frozen position somehow to serve as that until we get established overhire positions. But now we're able to hire for the unfrozen.
Frozen positions have now been all unfrozen.
Right.
So,
Okay. So the overhire positions, I guess, would be soon. That would happen sometime soon, or the request would go to the board sometime soon.
yeah, we would have to take it to the board. The question would be, is it a budget issue or not, right? To the extent then that as their budget plays itself out over the course of the fiscal year, it's better if it's incorporated as part of the budget process. But as you know, that's now several months away. So we'll develop it and see if it's reasonable to kind of bring it forward sooner than that. It can be an effective strategy. It's a little different in this case because you're not sending these employees off for months and months of training before they're actually released to the field. But we do think it can be a good strategy if we can kind of work it out.
Okay. I only have 2 more, so thanks for hanging in there with me. My next question is number 3 in the information items, which is the Office of Housing News, and it's in letter D. It was about the performance evaluations for staff and how well they went and that sort of thing. And this just triggered a question for me. And you know, I know we're not the advisory board for all of Albemarle County. We are the advisory board for just the Department of Social Services. But I would like to know, what is the lowest wage that we are paying any employee of the Department of Social Services? And is it either at that $15 threshold or close to that $15 threshold that has been thrown around and talked about quite a lot as far as a living wage? And it's not necessarily a living wage for this area, but so, you know, of our employees, we just did performance evaluations. And to me, that always makes me think that they might get a little bit of a raise, or they might move up to a new step or something like that. So what is the lowest paid DSS position we have?
Well, first of all, let me say that the performance evaluation system, evaluation process this year did not include any type of merit raise or pay adjustment. So what has been approved is an overall 2% raise and elevating the minimum wage to 15, right, Doug? 15. And so I'd have to go back and ask my finance folks for specifics, but I think that in general, it would be our DSS specialist 1 that might be still under that 15, and that would be elevated. And maybe DSS specialist 2, but I know for certain it would be DSS specialist 1.
Yeah,
Okay.
we have very few employees and even employee grades that have starting wages below $15 an hour on the local government side. Schools are a little different. It mainly affects, frankly, our part-time workers, and a lot of those we have in Parks and Recreation. That's probably the single biggest department. The $15 an hour solution or remedy that the board approved includes a kind of moderate or modest compression remedy with it. And so those at the lowest salaries around 15 are moved up into their scale so that they create some room underneath, but there really are not that many. I'm not answering the question specifically, but in general, it's not as big an issue on the local government side as it is on the school side.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I mean, that's what I was hoping that you all would say. And I mean, I think that's a really good change that has happened, and the school system's working on it too. So I was just curious to find out, you know, what the situation was in DSS, since I don't feel like we have talked about pay that much. We do talk about vacancies a lot, and sometimes those are connected. Sometimes they're not. So it just kind of depends. And then my last question was about number 6 in the information items, which was family preservation and prevention unit news. The information that we are just having trouble finding community services, intensive home counseling, therapeutic, supervised visitation, outpatient counseling, mentoring for youth, parent mentoring and substance abuse, intensive outpatient counseling. You know, at the end of this information, it says, it's saying in the event that if there's any outreach or advocacy that board members can do with community-based service providers in our area who may not have a current partnership with Albemarle DSS. I would just like to brainstorm either with you, Phyllis, or with the other board members, what can we do? I mean, I'm not even sure I could identify who those current partners are, but I know this is a huge issue because, you know, personally, when I was trying to find a therapist for my child, we struggled and we got on waiting lists, and I called 10 different places, and I was considering paying out of pocket because our insurance wasn't taken by all these places. You know, it was like, it was very, very upsetting and stressful. And I have a ton of resources at my disposal. So I can only imagine how it feels for the clients of DSS and people who really, really need these services, and it's an emergency. What can we do as board members?
Well, it's really two issues. One is that very few therapists or other providers are willing to take Medicaid. And so one of the ways to advocate is to advocate with our state Department of Medical Assistance Services to raise the reimbursement rate. And, you know, I think, you know, I'm not sure exactly how we'd go about doing that, but I could certainly look into that. But that's a significant issue. And then the related to that is that providers would be willing to enter into the CSA provider agreement with us. There's not as much resistance to that as there is becoming a Medicaid provider. But I think that it's just, in the community, if you know mental health providers, to reach out and just really kind of talk to them about being willing to accept our clients, enter into the agreement, accept Medicaid for reimbursement. I think that's really the most effective way of doing that. But, I think what you were describing in terms of your own experience is parallel, because so few therapists are taking insurance anymore. So it affects all of us, not just the DSS clients. It's really convincing the provider community to accept insurance, whether it be private insurance or Medicaid, or even the CSA funds.
So I remember in the special ed community, we were creating like a resources document of all the local therapists, physical therapy, occupational therapy, just to have available. It was online and was given to families. I wonder, because that might be part of what, just a lot, just information for families that need help. I'm just wondering if you guys have ever, I know that was in the city, but I'm sure we did it with the county. I am sure of it. Oh, I thought that was when I was on FAPT even.
I mean, internally, we have kind of a directory of the providers that we use, and we share that information with our families. The issue is those providers being available for the family.
Yeah.
At some point, it starts to seem like it doesn't matter how much money you have, they're already booked. Like they just are so full, they can't take any more clients, period. So even if you did have the top of the line insurance, or even if you had the money to just pay out of pocket. Well, so I guess we would then need the list of CSA providers, so we know who's already on the list. Or
yeah, I can get that, but so if we're not able to get the families seen by the current list, then that means that's where the availability is an issue. But then there are other providers in the area that aren't willing to either accept Medicaid or enter into CSA. And so really, if those folks would be willing to sign on with us, then that expands the pool and perhaps it helps with the availability piece. But I'm not sure what one can do if the therapist is full.
Right.
But can we expand the pool? I think that's the strategy.
well, either that, or you have an in-house. I mean, then it becomes, we have DSS therapists on staff who are dedicated to just our clients, rather than us trying to use the community resources. And I know we don't have the staffing for that, but if it continues to be a big issue over time, then perhaps we just have to think outside the box.
Yeah, I will confess that from a clinical perspective, I think there's a conflict of interest there if you have DSS staff providing the same service to the DSS client. And I think that a client would have a tremendously difficult time really trusting, because if you have a foster care worker or a CPS worker saying you got to go, and they got to go to the person that also works for DSS, I think the clinical relationship would be really challenged.
Yeah, I can see that.
One advocacy might be to turn to the community services board and say, is there something you can do to enhance, increase your services or do more for the children and family part of your, your divisions. I'm going to interrupt for a minute because I am embarrassed that, Lisa, I think that the wrong information items were sent out. Because I don't see the item from Stacy in the one that was sent out, and I don't see my administration items.
Okay.
So what I'd like to do right now is just read what I had included for my administration items, and then I will send you an updated version, because I definitely would want you to see the item from Stacy Pethia, our new housing policy manager. And so I do apologize that I wasn't vigilant enough.
Maybe
So
you can share your screen and you don't have to read it to us, or is that possible? I don't know. I'm just trying to
yeah,
make.
let me, it's, my version was still in the track changes. Hold on. Okay. Let's see. Am I able to share my screen, Lisa? Yes,
Let me make you co-host and you will be.
I got it, I think.
Oh, you got it?
Can you see my screen
Yes,
now?
it says you're starting, but it hasn't popped up.
Flooding.
Now it is.
Okay. Well, here are the administration news. So I wanted to express my appreciation for all the support and advocacy given by you all. I've already mentioned that we received permission to hire the positions that were frozen. And I wanted to specifically highlight that we are redeploying one of our previously frozen family support worker positions to the self-sufficiency team in order to create capacity for us to provide employment and training services to SNAP customers. I'm really excited about this new program. I think this is going to really move the needle in terms of helping our clients with employment services. And then I had mentioned in previous items that we received funding from the state for new in-home positions. And so we're currently recruiting for a senior family preservation services worker and a family preservation services. And then I also wanted to let you know that Cheryl Lewis, one of our part-time CSA coordinators, is retiring at the end of December. And Doug and Finance and Budget were able to find one-time monies to basically move Jennifer into a full-time status effective July 1. And then the one-time monies would continue to fund Cheryl's salary through the end of December. So we basically have 1.5 positions as they transition through until the end of December. So I'm excited about that. And then the item from Stacy, so it starts with this D. The Planning Commission voted to approve the proposed new housing policy, and it will now go to the Board of Supervisors on June 16th for their approval. And then this on number E, it's referencing application process for developers and nonprofit housing providers to request support through the county's affordable housing fund. And then it talks about how much is in that fund. And then finally, we are partnering with Community Development, Habitat, and the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development to finalize a $1 million CDBG grant to support the Southwood project. And just today, we were able to get kind of the last thing we were waiting for from Finance and Budget so that we can move forward to finalize the contract. So I'll send you a final copy of of this, so you'll have it. And again, I apologize. Hate when that happens.
So I think that's it for the information items, right? And then the next thing on the agenda is just message from the director, or is that what you just did?
Nope, I have a message.
Okay.
So in thinking about what to do for my last advisory board meeting, I wanted to do something that sort of kind of commemorates it in some way. Not commemorates it, but marks it. I didn't want to just come up with a presentation and then just say they just have a usual board meeting. And last month at my CPMT retreat, I was asked to kind of talk about my history with our local CSA system, since I actually go all the way back to my Region 10 days when we had a strong interagency system. So I thought it might be fun, I hope it's fun, for me to take a walk down DSS memory lane with you all and just share with you some of the highlights, not only with our agency, but kind of in the social services world over the last 23 years. And I think you'll really see how we've had some pretty significant new laws, new policies, new regulations that have really been good for our families in some ways, and also just marked big shifts in how we do our business. So what I thought I would do is categorize this in kind of buckets, and highlighting some of the big things that happened in our services, highlighting some of the big things that happened in eligibility, some of the highlights of our own journey towards becoming a high-performing organization. And then I thought I would end by just sharing some memorable moments over the last 23 years. So I'll start with services. In the child welfare world, when I first started, the Adoption and Safe Families Act had just been passed. And this completely changed how we operated in our foster care system. It emphasized reducing the length of time in foster care and prioritizing permanency. It resulted in more frequent court hearings, and then DSS was held more accountable to explain why they weren't terminating parental rights if the child had not been returned within 24 months. And this act then led to some significant kind of ways in which we conducted our business. We started utilizing concurrent planning in foster care. And by that, I mean, you start with a goal of return home, but then you have a plan B from the very beginning. And the idea is by 24 months, you're either returning home or you're going to plan B. It led to us starting to approve foster families as adoptive families. You know, historically, the belief was that foster families should not adopt, but that you should have a different family. Well, that meant kids were, you know, moving from family to family. So we started dually approving, and so if the child couldn't go home, then potentially the foster family could adopt. It led to an increased focus on looking at the father side of the family to kind of enhance, you know, the child staying with family. And on the foster home side, we've always had a really strong partnership with the City of Charlottesville and Greene County DSS in our recruitment, approval, and training of foster families. We used to have an organization called Tri-Area Foster Families, and then that led to the Community Attention Foster Families. So again, over the last 23 years, the field of foster care really changed significantly with the passage of that one act. On the CPS side, we were one of the original pilots for something called structured decision making. And basically what that involved was, instead of just putting families through an investigation track, there was also an option to have the families go through an assessment track, which was the kinder and gentler approach to a CPS assessment. And we were, again, original pilot. And so when it was finally implemented, we were already doing it, and could implement it fairly easily. That led to some real paradigm shifts in the field of child welfare. It led to looking at families as possible decision makers in their own cases. Led to increased family engagement. We've talked a lot about family finding that we've done in our agency, and this really stemmed out of kind of that whole philosophy of bringing family to the table and engaging them in discussing what kind of services are needed and how can they enhance their involvement. The whole family finding process really challenged the adage of the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. We had workers that really struggle with that kind of shift in philosophy, but it really has enabled our kids to achieve permanency more quickly, and then also achieve permanency either with their biological family or with some family relative. On the prevention side, you know that our agency has the 2 school-based programs, which no other DSS has like we do. It started by utilizing the creative use of a funding stream that at the time was available through BDSS, and over time, you know, it's just been supported significantly by the county. When we were going through our kind of high performing organization journey, one of the things that we worked on was something called the hedgehog concept. If you know anything about hedgehogs, they, as opposed to something like a fox, they simplify the complex world into a single organizing idea. You know, they're laser focused. And so the idea is what the hedgehog concept has to do with what can you be the best in the world at, and kind of, you know, put all of your energies and focus on that. And for us, it was prevention. It was prevention strategies. And it wasn't just the prevention like in family support and Bright Stars, but it was prevention across the board. How can we evaluate for risk factors? And how could we provide prevention services based on risk factors? So that work in developing that really led us to develop these school-based prevention programs, and they are alive and well and robust, and 2 of the programs that we're really proud of. So then moving on to adult protective services. In 2013, which is when I was assistant director, adult protective services went from under VDSS to the Department of Aging and Rehabilitation Services, which was a significant move. It's an odd thing because the oversight is in DARS, but the services are delivered by DSS. So it's interesting because now we see a similar move with childcare, going from VDSS into Department of Education, and Department of Education is contracting with VDSS to manage the childcare subsidy program. So it's kind of a similar parallel from what happened to APS. I mentioned just a bit ago about our CSA. And just a couple of things I'll highlight. In the mid-90s, a legislation was passed that required multidisciplinary team staffings for all kids who were found to be a child in need of supervision or a child in need of services through the court system. So the city and the county came together and created an organization that we affectionately called CHAIN, which was Charlottesville Albemarle Interagency Network. So we created these multidisciplinary teams. So when CSA was enacted, we already had a system in place. We already had these multidisciplinary teams. And we have stayed, we have remained a very collaborative or strong collaboration between the city and the county. Even though now legally the city CPMT and the county CPMTs are separate, we meet together and we try to really work together to serve our kids and families. And I was meeting with Amy earlier today, and she reminded me about when the Commission on Youth and Families was in existence. And at that time, the commission managed our CSA process, but the commission was actually housed here at the county, just right behind our space. And when the commission was dissolved, mainly due to the recession, that's when the DSSs took on the administration of CSA. So then moving on to eligibility, 2011 Affordable Health Care Act, and it was an absolute game changer for eligibility, mainly Medicaid. The Affordable Health Care Act resulted in significant changes in the Medicaid policy for families and children. And it also required states to develop a single case management system, which we affectionately, that's quote unquote, know as VACMAS, Virginia Case Management System. So initially only Medicaid was in that system, but then over the last several years, year by year, each programs got added one by one. So now all of the eligibility programs are housed in the system. So that would include Medicaid, TANF, SNAP, energy, and childcare. But it was a significant change for eligibility because, you know, for forever and a day, the policies didn't change. So when the Affordable Health Care Act was passed and Medicaid policy changed, suddenly our most expert eligibility workers didn't know how to work the case. And I was assistant director at that time, and I saw the angst and the stress that you know these folks had because they up until that point they could do their job blindfolded, and all of a sudden they didn't know the policy anymore. At this right about 2013, the state rolled out its new online application portal called Common Health, which was the beginning of a real move to automate eligibility completely. And I predict that in a couple years, we may see a real impact that we, in terms of not needing the human power to manage or to administer our benefits, because I think it's going to become more and more automated. And I know I've shared with you before that one of the benefits from the pandemic was that we saw a significant uptick in our applications coming through Common Health, which is better for everyone. And so one of the things that we are devoted to doing during this reconstitution phase is making sure that we don't backtrack, that we keep emphasizing applications coming in through Common Health. In 2018, Medicaid expansion was upon us, and that had a significant impact on the hospital because more and more patients were found eligible for Medicaid, and it significantly increased our Medicaid caseload in general. And then I've already mentioned the move of childcare to DOE in this July. With employment services, I know many of you have heard about welfare reform in the late 90s. That's what created the Virginia Initiative for Employment Not Welfare program, which targeted providing employment services to TANF customers. Now it's the Virginia Initiative for Education and Work. And as I mentioned earlier, we are going to be rolling out a SNAP education and training program where we'll be able to deliver VIEW-like services to our SNAP customers. Several years ago, we also had a child care quality initiative program where we had a grant-funded position to work with child care providers to provide more training for the providers, to get a higher rating, if you will. And now Ready Kids does a very similar service like that. But when I was in foster care, actually, we managed that program, and it was great to see the partnership between our child care subsidy workers and this, we called it CCQI worker, working together to help the providers just provide more, a higher level of care. And then finally, in the employment services, we're one of the few social service departments that has its own career center. And I am thrilled that we are in the process of becoming an official satellite or an affiliate of the One Stop. I'm going to call that my swan song if that really takes place July 1, which is what we're intending. It just means it gives us an official status for the One Stop system.
Did you say Wan song?
Swan song.
Oh, swan.
I just got it. That was funny. And so before I get to the memorable moments, I just wanted to highlight some of the key elements of what I call our journey toward excellence in becoming a high-performing organization. When we started, one of the first things we did was develop the management team structure that we operate now, where the agency is managed by teams for certain of the operational areas. Our strategic planning process is very robust. We use a team that consists of DSS staff as well as community partners, and there's a lot of focus on looking at data and having robust discussions among the team to just kind of see what comes up in terms of priority areas. I know Doug has been involved in several of our strategic planning processes, and it results in a robust plan. And right now, our plan is the target date is 2022, and we're just actively working on the different strategies. Over the years, we've also conducted agency self-assessments where we charter a team that looks at how we're doing on different areas such as human resource, the workforce, strategic planning, the use of metrics, blanking on the process improvement strategies, and that's created continuous quality improvement plans, which now we try to roll into the strategic plan. So that's been an ongoing process that we started doing in the early 2000s. We've devoted a lot of energy and commitment to a rigorous use of data in decision making, so much so that we have a dedicated position to data management, data collection, and data analysis. And we call that position the Office of Program Accountability. And there's a concerted focus on our key performance indicators and using those to really measure how we're doing. And there's a group of unit measures, and then there's also the agency critical measures. And on a quarterly basis, the leadership team looks at those and try to figure out where we need to improve. We received the SPQA award in 2007 and 2011. We've had a strong focus on external and internal customer satisfaction surveys. We've been doing those since the early 2000s, and the feedback is paid attention to and used to develop strategies for how we can improve. And more recently, we've conducted crosswalks between our results on the county climate surveys and the internal customer satisfaction surveys to see where things where things differed and where things were the same. Our logo and mission and values have been in place probably since the mid 2000s. If you remember, our logo is listening to the need, working together for solutions. Our mission is we provide services that provide self-sufficiency and support individual and family safety and well-being. And then our vision is individuals and families in Albemarle County are able to meet their full potential and plan for the future. Our values are hope, respect, opportunity, and self-determination. And then in this last strategic planning process, we added an equity and inclusion value. And then finally, there's always been a strong emphasis on customer service, which was difficult at first for our staff, because our staff tended to be of the mind that we should figure out how to do things that were easier for the staff. But there was a significant paradigm shift. We need to focus on what's best for the external customer. And so now for some memorable moments. So when I first started, we were housed at county, the county office building down at McIntyre. And around 2000, 2001, we were moved to the building is no longer there, but it was on Millmont Street, and it used to be called the Charter Office Medical Building. And and so when we moved there, at some point we realized that there was a stray cat in the attic, and the cat had kittens. And so several of the staff adopted the kittens, and a couple of our staff still have one of those kittens that are now grown-up cats. There was also a fish pond in the courtyard there, and one of our staff member was really adept at running a fish pond because she has one at her house. So she started this fish pond and then got several other workers to feed the fish and clean the pond. So it was quite fun. And then we moved to Cobb 5, and here's a picture of who we call the MOVE team. I don't know if you can see that, but that's the group of 6 of us who worked together to plan how we were what construction was needed, what furniture was going to come over, all the planning that takes place for moving. And so who's in this picture are Kathy, me, Cheryl Lewis, Mike Jenks, Paul McQuinney, and Mary Timberlake. So Cheryl and I are the only ones left now. So that was the MOVE team. So I mentioned the SPQA awards. So in 2011, after we got the award, several of us got together and we had a special staff meeting presentation where we sang a little ditty called "We Got the Cue." And the first verse of that goes like this: She's 5'4", and you can bet all those teams complete the set. But there's more to this than meets the eye. Let's all join in to complete the jive. Word is spreading like a big old fan about the DSS in Albemarle land. You see, it's got the pluck and it's got the nerve to press the point about how we serve. We got the Q, the quality Q, and it is because of you. And so we had these little cues, a little pin that we gave all the staff. And if you want to know the rest of the verses, let me know and I'll email them to you.
Doug, could you sing that for us at the next meeting?
I don't need to. Phyllis is a much better singer than I am.
Not
Plus, she can also play guitar. So
Oh, the two of you should take this on the road show.
my retirement gig. Every December, admin, which used to be just, the director and the two assistant directors, and that's grown. We always did a year-end review for the December staff meeting. And for most of the years, it followed a news story theme. So there'd be the news announcer, and then there'd be a weatherman, and then we would plant people to give a story about something that happened that year. And then John Freeman was always the weatherman, and he would highlight, when we had to open shelters in a hurricane or a snowstorm. But last year, our year-end theme was, if you know the band Queen, who did "We Are the Champions." So we created our own lyrics, and so we were all on Zoom. So what we did was we would read the verses, and then we'd play the music of "We Are the Champions, We Are the Champions." So I felt like we were very creative in being able to pull that off virtually. And then another year, we created a poem that just it started "Hark," and then it just had some funny things about what happened over the years. But staff really enjoyed those year-end presentations. There was a lot of laughing going on. And then I wanted to highlight that for years we've always had a special Black History Month celebration, the Hispanic Heritage Month, and Native American months. And those usually involved food and display of items. For Black History Month, one time we had a presentation on the history of gospel and spirituals. One year we had a former alumni of Burley Middle School come and talk about the Burley, I forget what the team was, Burley something.
Bears.
Burley Bears?
Yep.
Oh, that was it. Thank you, Lisa.
Uh-huh.
And so I think that has really, that was the precursor to our work over the last couple of years and really looking at diversity and inclusion. So those events were always really fun and exciting. And then just two final things. This was a great example of how in our organization, even though there's a hierarchy, the management teams really do have a lot of responsibility. And one time I came to work, this was after I became director, and I started walking down the halls, and suddenly I saw these inspirational quotes like on the wall. I don't know how they did it, certain special decals, and they were great quotes. There was a quote like Winnie the Pooh, and I was thinking, oh my God, we can't do that. And I was asking around. I guess I asked Lisa, I said, where do those quotes come from? And she said, well, the rewards, recognition, and satisfaction management team put them up there. And I knew I couldn't override that. And all I could think about was, I sure hope they consulted General Services. Well, fast forward to when Jeff was hired, and he came over to have his first meeting with me. and I was giving him a tour, and I told him the story about these quotes and how I had nothing to do with it, and you know, that I was just really hopeful that General Services knew. And Jeff just thought that was the coolest thing, and he's talked about that since then. He was pretty impressed. And then finally, I wanted to show you the T-shirt that we made after the 2017 event. So if you see, it says, "Believe there is good in the world," and then it highlight, it's "Be the good." And I really think that that encapsulates sort of my commitment and my ultimate goal for my role in this organization is to help us strive to be the good, believe that there is good, to believe there's good in our customers, to believe there's good even in the parent that abuses their child, or believe there is good in the person that has trouble maintaining a job, and that our role is to boost that, to enhance it, to encourage that, and to be the good for them. It's my my personal value, and I've worked hard to try to bring that to what I do. So I'm gonna try not to get emotional here. It's been an honor to work for this organization in putting together this memory lane. It was really fun to just kind of remember all the things we've done and how we, faced adversity and challenges, and just tried to really do the best we can for our customers and our Albemarle residents. And again, I appreciate all that you all have done, and I know that you will continue, and whoever takes my place is going to have a great board. So that's my trip down memory lane.
Karen, did you want to say something? I saw you start to speak, but you were muted.
No, I was just going to say that was great, Phyllis, and thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I really like that. I mean, I wasn't around for a lot of it, but I mean, it's just amazing how many changes that there have been over the time. It's amazing to me you remember all this. You're just like listing it off, no big deal. I was wondering, like, what do you think is going to be, what do you think you'll miss the most from being the director of DSS?
Me. Never mind.
We all laughed.
Even though my Myers-Briggs is INFP, so I'm an introvert, relationships are very important to me. And so I will miss relationships and just kind of the working with people. I will miss the times when I feel like we've been able to be really creative and create something like different or that really puts us at the forefront. I'm really excited that the Career Center will become an affiliate, and that will become a SNAP agency before I leave. That makes me proud. It helps me to feel like we're fulfilling our mission. But really, it's the people, and it's important for me to feel like I'm doing something of significance and of meaning. So I'll have to replace that somehow.
Yeah.
I will. But there's no doubt that my work here has given me a lot of meaning and purpose, sense of purpose.
Well, I heard that Saka is looking for soccer coaches if you just need something.
And Karen can show you how to quilt, because I think that's what she's doing right now.
I'm listening.
I know you are. I'm just teasing you.
Well, thank you so much, Phyllis. I really appreciate that presentation and I enjoyed it and learned a lot.
Can I just ask a quick question? Phyllis, what do you think, and maybe this is almost impossible to answer, but what do you think the next really big change is going to be in your world? I'm just kind of curious because we're all talking about change coming out of the pandemic.
Well, I think one change has already started, and that is the whole teleworking part. I think, our whole eligibility division is going to be teleworking. And so that's going to really change how we develop a sense of community in the organization. And then, and what it basically means is that it's that much closer to a fully automated benefit administration, because right now everything is done online or by phone. And as it gets more automated, I can see just you don't even need the phone, you know. So I think that we've already started to see that. In terms of programmatic changes, I'm not sure what to expect, like in the child welfare world, or even adult services world. It's really hard to predict. Like I don't foresee anything as huge as the Adoption and Safe Families Act, for example. That was really big.
Well, I really enjoyed the presentation. It was fun because for a lot of that, I missed that as well. But anyway, it was great. And thank you very much. Yeah.
One thing I do, there's a lot more emphasis on workforce services, and I think, it started with the welfare reform. But I think that at the state level, there's a lot more connectivity between the workforce system and the DSS. So it'll be interesting to see if perhaps DSS becomes more of a active partner in that, and not just through the TANF or through SNAP, but really we become actually an employment services type of agency. I think that very well may happen, which I think would be fine.
So I think that brings us to business from the board. Do any board members have any business that they want to share? I do not.
I just want to say thank you to Phyllis for being such a great leader. You know, Kathy Tran was amazing, and you were just as equally amazing. I hope we can find another amazing leader. So congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you. I'm sure that Doug et al. Will find a great replacement.
Yeah, it's really amazing. Before I joined this board, I did not really know a lot about the department and all of the things that you do and all of the people whose lives are touched. But I mean, it's all so connected. I don't think that there's a citizen in Albemarle whose life was not somehow affected by the things that this department is doing, even if they're not one of the clients, because they're still living in the same world as all of us and interacting on a daily basis. And when one of our community members is in need and their needs aren't being met, that affects all the rest of us too. And so when I think about it that way, you know, Phyllis, you have just impacted just hundreds of thousands of people over the years. And so I think that that's like a really, really amazing accomplishment, and you deserve rest. But I don't know. I hope that we as a board can continue to advocate for what the needs are of the department, and also just to to make you proud in a way. If you have any words of wisdom for us as board members, I mean, I'm absolutely willing to take direction and advice from you, because you've seen so many different boards over the years, you know?
Well, as I mentioned, I was talking with Amy earlier today, and I'm very appreciative of the level of engagement of this board. That hasn't always been the case. And I know I get a lot out of the questions that you ask, of the info items and other things, because it encourages me to think outside of the box. So I would encourage you to continue to ask questions and then offer ideas. But also, you know, you all are in a unique position in that you are part of a community, and the the conversations at parties or picnics or barbecues, or are where a lot of advocacy can happen. And sometimes somebody will listen more to a community member talk about something like, most of the SNAP customers are also working. you know, um, that in that part of the county, that's where the highest incident of poverty is. That kind of aware, um, enhancing awareness of what the human service needs are in the community, enhancing awareness in the community, itself. That you guys are in a unique role to be able to do that. Because I can go and say, well, most SNAP customers are employed, but it's not going to have the same, I won't have the same credibility that you all will. Because you can say where you heard it.
So it's your last chance to help us craft the message out. Do any board members have any ideas of what you think needs to be included this month of things that we should spread around, in particular to the Board of Supervisors as well?
Honestly, I know we didn't talk about it, but maybe, I guess, is Doug going to do an update of the hiring process? Because I think that is probably something, I don't know, Diantha, do you guys get a report on that? I don't know.
I can give an update to you. The board will probably next engage when they have to consider the candidate that the county executive brings forward. In the county executive form of government, the actual appointment is made by the Board of Supervisors. So it's rather unique in Virginia local government structure. But they've been made aware of the process. I think the last one, maybe a month ago, they were sent an update on the process. Of course, I've updated this board. The process is moving forward, and I can't give a specific time frame. I think there will certainly be a gap between when Phyllis leaves and when the new director comes on, but there is a possibility it'll be a relatively short gap. And we've talked about that before, that there's not much concern because the agency is so solid. It was not a big factor in the timing of the recruitment. We were much more focused on doing a good process than trying to do a quick process. So, but we are making progress, and it is certainly possible to have a new director on board this summer. Is probably the best that I can say without saying too much or too little, being candid and diplomatic at the same time.
So an update on that you think would be included. What about the information about the community, my brain, mental health providers, or struggle to find services for some of our families and people who need that, including, I think that would be good for, not that the Board of Supervisors has any control over that, but I still think that if that is such a major issue that it took almost an entire page of our information, and it was, staff felt like it needed to be mentioned, then I think that it's really important. Could we get the list, Phyllis, from you? You had said that you possibly could get a list of who our current community partners are, so that if we're trying to approach others, we would already know like who is and is not.
I can get a list of the providers that we pay. That would not necessarily include the ones that take Medicaid.
Okay, was a good
Those aren't that many. Would you all like to include in your message the information about the Career Center?
Yes.
And maybe the SNAP-ed?
Is that Juan Diego Wade's office?
One is the program coordinator for the Career Center. Sam Spencer is the supervisor of the self-sufficiency team, and he would be supervising the new position that would focus on the SNAP education and training services. He also has the VIEW program.
You know, maybe Phyllis, with the lack of, basically what we're saying is there's lack of providers. You know, maybe that can just be, that feels to me, I mean, I always think that happens anyway, but with the pandemic, I think it just became even more so. You know, are we sending the resource, like the packet of how resources to the board? I don't know if that's necessary, right? I thought it was just going to be that, you know, we have a lack of providers for mental health services. Is that right or no?
Yeah, I thought the message would just talk about that, but then I would send a list to you all.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the list I was meaning was just for us, like advocacy or reaching out and talking to people about changes and, you know, trying to help the situation.
Yeah, I'll wait a little bit in sending this out, because what I'd like for you to do is see the correct information items and see if anything else jumps out at you, particularly the ones from Stacy.
Okay.
Although the board will be reviewing the policy next Wednesday.
Okay. Well, that sounds good. I wanted to bring up our next meeting is scheduled for July 13th, I believe. Tuesday, July 13th, and I am going to be in the Grand Canyon, and I will not be logging in remotely from there. So I just wanted to let you all know that I won't be here.
Yeah, I just want to mention, actually, I had someone pick up my kids today. I think just like going forward in next fall, the time of 3:30, which I know you've always done, I hope I can still, I just think, I don't know logistically if I have to pick up my kids or not. I'm not sure what's going to happen with transportation. They used to take the bus. I don't know if the bus is going to work, or I just want to put it out there for when we start back in the fall. So just put it out there. I don't know if, you know, how solid 3:30 has to be, or, you know, but we can talk about that maybe in September or something after I can't make the first meeting.
And can I ask, which position is still open? Which district needs a person?
Scottsville.
Scottsville. Okay.
I think the person that Supervisor Price had fell through, so she's gone back to the drawing board. At least that's what I understand from the clerk.
All right.
To Amy's question, I mean, it's always a good time to for the advisory board to kind of talk about what works best for your ability to serve. But with a new director, that's even better, probably. So, you know, Lisa's taking notes, perhaps capturing that in the minutes of this meeting and prompting a conversation. I will try to remember. Phyllis can come back and remind us. But it would be a good time, I would think, to engage with the new director about how this particular advisory board schedule is working and what changes might be best for you guys.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if like 5 o'clock was the hard end time because that's when staff needs to stop working.
Yeah.
No, in fact, there are some localities where the advisory board meets in the evening. I think the city's advisory board meets in the evening, if I'm not mistaken. So I inherited the Tuesday at 3:30. I have no idea where it came from, but
Staff will work with your schedules.
pardon?
Staff will work with the board's schedules.
Absolutely.
And if we can keep it remote, I mean, maybe that's a way to get somebody from like Scottsville to be able to participate, because that's quite a distance, but, you know.
All right, well, I guess that's about it, unless anyone can think of anything else you wanted to discuss or include. All right, well, it's been great to see you all, and I will not see you all in July, but then I will see you again the month after, and I guess we are adjourned.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Don't forget June 17th is Phyllis's party. Lisa, what time is that at?
3:30 to 5,
Okay, perfect.
or it might be 3 to 5:30. I don't know. So I'm not really planning it.
I think
Is it in
it's
Penn Park?
Yes,
3 to 5:30.
3 to 5:30.
Okay.
See you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, Phyllis.
Thank you.